May was a really great month, not just for me completing games, but also for this channel. You all seem to really enjoy my month of backlog insanity, so thank you for the amazing support for that. I'm genuinely so blown away by the support. We've over quadrupled in subscribers at the time of writing, and seeing this in YouTube Studio never really gets old, so I really can't thank you enough for that. But enough about the videos that got made, what about the games that got played? As I said, May was a pretty great month since I finished 6 games, which is pretty unheard of for me, and even better than that, I liked all of them and loved half of them. So let me tell you all about it. As you may know, I played the first hour of the Pathless as part of my month of backlog games, and I really enjoyed it. In fact, I enjoyed it so much that it pushed straight to the front of my queue of games I was actively completing and became my go-to whenever I got any free time. In that first hour, I really enjoyed the movement, style, and boss battles, and I'm really glad to say that the game keeps that up and only really gets better the longer the game goes on. It wasn't the perfect game, and I'll get to the cons in a second, but getting around this world is a blast, and as you unlock more tools to do so faster and easier, it kept being a blast pretty much until I rolled credits. The boss battles also hold up really well. I'd heard that they were all a little bit samey and repetitive, and while the gameplay outside of boss battles certainly is, the battles themselves are extremely varied once you get around to them. The chases got a little bit old, but once you get to the actual fight, each one is its own set piece, making use of unique mechanics. They were all also a visual treat, as the corrupted gods tower above you and you have to fight back with just a bow and a bird. Outside of boss battles, however, the game is a tad bit repetitive. It's just different puzzle-based shrines where you need to move weights around, light torches, and literally shoot through hoops to progress and earn tokens for each god. It wasn't too hard, so it was never really frustrating. The variety was just a bit limited, making it feel a tiny bit like a grind to get to the boss battles. The rewards for collecting all the tokens are well worth the effort, which is pretty strange since they're completely optional, but unlock whole new abilities which make the game a lot more fun and easy to play. If you didn't bother to get them all, you'd really be missing out, so it's weird that there's not more incentive encouraging you to do so outside of just collecting them all. The world also felt massive, which is a good thing, but when you're running across the entire length of the map to search for tokens, it can kind of feel like you're stuck on the motorway driving to pick up your takeout. The reward will be pretty nice, but could I have not just gone to the place around the corner, or at least have a way to get around quicker? I appreciate that outside of cutscenes there's no loading screens and you can go right from the bottom all the way to the top in one go, but some sort of faster travel would have been nice as an option. Lastly, the story here is okay. It's not bad, but the actual cutscenes themselves weren't the real selling point. When you land in the story, the major event of the world has pretty much already happened, and you're just trying to undo it. The event itself seems a lot more interesting from what you can learn from lore pickups scattered throughout the map, and I do enjoy learning about a world from its ruins. All in all, I very much enjoyed this one for the just over 8 hours I spent with it. Short and sweet for long enough to get me to the end. 8 out of 10. Would recommend it to a friend or family member. Next was Steamworld Build, and I'm honestly not quite sure what possessed me to just hop onto this next. I think I wanted something I could play in the background while I was watching every single Jacob Geller video available on YouTube, and it served its purpose pretty well for that. It's pretty much a very simplified Anno game where you build up your city, upgrading the different tiers of residents, each with their own sets of needs and desires. The difference here is that you also have the underground mines to worry about. Down here you'll find a bunch of more advanced resources and also have to defend from invading enemies like bugs and eventually robots. This is all leading to an endgame where you collect all the rocket parts from the mines, fuel it up, and launch into space. There is a story mode, but it's pretty basic, which is fine for a game like this since the focus really shouldn't be on the story. But overall, that feeling of just fine was how I felt the entire time playing this one. It's for sure not a bad game, and I did enjoy my playthrough. It's just not anything all that spectacular. Part of the fun of Anno is the other players doing the same thing as you in this race to secure resources and build up as fast as possible. Here, it's just you, so you can go at your own pace, which is relaxing, but it also meant there was basically no stakes. Even in the mines, every single one of your defenses and workers can die to enemies, but all you're really losing is time, so there's no real stakes to anything. Space is plentiful, you can easily collect enough resources to keep your city more than happy, and the only thing that ever slowed me down was waiting on production. I also had a little dabble with the mechanized DLC, which just adds mechs and a few new mechanics to the mines, but aside from that, this is pretty much the same game, so I probably won't bother going much further than this. Like I said, the game isn't bad, but there's nothing pulling me back to complete all the maps, since when you get down to it, it's the exact same thing every single time. If you're really into city builders, then grab this one on a sale for some quick fun, but I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. At the the same time I was playing Steamworld Build, I was also making my way through Bioshock Remastered. Funnily enough, the day I started playing this was exactly 1 year from the last time I tried to play it, so it was about time that I got around to finish it. Now, I have some complicated feelings about this one. I know that it's one of those trailblazing games that changed everything and has one of those devastating twists that people never saw coming, but playing it today, it just wasn't all that great. Now I know it's dated, but I still enjoy playing Scalar on the PS2, and that's very dated. I enjoy Peter Jackson's King Kong subtitle, the official game of the movie, and that's incredibly dated. But I just don't like this all that much. Maybe it's because I have nostalgia for those other games and not this one, but it just didn't feel all that great to play. First of all, let's start with the positives, since there is a lot of good stuff here, and it's mainly the world. Rapture is incredibly atmospheric, and that thing I said I loved in the Pathless, where you learn about a place from the ruins, that's basically all you do here. You don't get to see the legend that was Rapture in its prime, but you sure do hear about it. The story of how Rapture fell is extremely interesting. I just wish that was the story we were playing, instead of hearing about it in an endless supply of audio logs. Visually, the style holds up even if the textures can be wonky sometimes, and the first time you see a Big Daddy, they really do feel like this unstoppable force just from their aura. My one gripe with Rapture is that I wish they made more use of water since we're under the sea, but that was probably really hard to do back then, so it's fair enough. Now for the bad. Basically everything else. The combat gameplay is okay, but it feels extremely weightless. Guns feel like I'm shooting toys and don't really have much impact or power to them. I'm not even talking about damage, I just want them to feel better. The plasmids are of course pretty cool, but having to switch between the two always makes me feel like I'm compromising on something. Now I get this might be the point, but just because it's the point doesn't mean I have to like it. The enemy AI here is also simultaneously dumb as rocks, but also has perfect aim that snaps to you the moment you dip out of cover. Turrets in particular always felt like guaranteed damage, which was never fun. Enemy variety is okay, but it's mainly nameless goons with a variety of weapons and the occasional Big Daddy. Hype Mania is just awful and way overused. I don't know how anyone at any point thought that doing this same minigame over and over and over and over again wouldn't get old. Every opportunity I got to avoid doing this, either with cash or hacking tools, I took, since it was always just such a pace ruiner. The story is okay. Obviously, I knew the twist before it happened since the game is so old, but even so, it felt very just whatever. Spoilers, I guess, for this game that came out almost 20 years ago. Skip to this time code. Okay, let's go. Explaining why we did whatever Atlas said is sort of cool, but we also do whatever any game character says in any game, since that's just how they work. The game would have worked just as well if we weren't mind controlled and instead were just being bog standard manipulated. I don't hate the mind control as a concept, but I think it would have been more cool to get someone to betray us. Maybe like Fontaine was mind controlling Andrew Ryan, or Dr. wherever her name is who looks after the kids. The only time mind control feels in any way real is when we kill Ryan because we have no control and just have to watch as it happens. More moments like that would have been a vast improvement because then I'd be questioning what was happening and why I kept doing things out of mind control instead of just mowing down half the city because the Irishman asked me nicely. It wasn't mind control, it was an objective in a video game that I had to complete to progress. It ain't the same thing. In my opinion, it would have made just as much sense that we find our way to the city and this nice dude tells us he'll help us escape if we help him save his family and whatever else he wants to do. He tells us that Ryan kills said family and we agree to help him get revenge before we leave, then oh my goshness, it turns out that the family was never real and he was just lying to us the whole time to get control of Rapture. See how that makes just as much sense as the mind control and isn't overly complicated with us being born here and sent away to grow up only to bring down a plane in just the right spot to come back. I don't know, it all feels a tad too convoluted, but that's just my take. I know a lot of people really love this game, so please don't flame me in the comments. I also forgot to mention it, but that last segment where you turn into a Big Daddy sucks ass because the little sisters are so slow and die to a gentle breeze. Who really thought that you would end this action-packed quote-unquote game with a escort mission of extremely fragile children that move incredibly slowly? Anyway, back to the video. Anyway, spoilers aside, the game is okay. It didn't blow me away, but I'm glad I crossed it off my list since it is one of those quintessential games of all time. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. After Bioshock was finished, I wanted to cross something else off that had been lingering on my in-progress pile for a while, Sunset Overdrive. I started this up whilst waiting for The Last of Us to download a few months ago, and it did exactly what I wanted it to. It's good fun, but you're basically playing it with your brain shut off, and sometimes that's what I want. There is a story, but it's basically just satire and meta jokes that are funny the first few times, but quickly lose their steam towards the end. I like Deadpool as much as the next guy, right? But when you break the fourth wall constantly, it kinda loses its impact. Isn't that right, audience? The gameplay here is a lot of fun. It's part floaty parkour skateboarding game and part horde shooter with a variety of wacky weapons. playing for high combos and plowing through enemies with overdrives is a lot of fun, but it is all pretty mindless. The character customization I did enjoy and spent way too long customizing my lady to have lore-accurate outfits for each act of the game, so these outfits aren't just like this because I'm horny. It's for the lore, actually, so no calling me out in the comments, don't bully me, I'll come. But yeah, it's a fine, funny story and fun gameplay. I played it for 11 hours and I'm pretty done with it. There is DLC, but honestly, I'm not that bothered. I got the game for some cheap fun, and that's what I got, so I'm pretty satisfied and ready to move on. 7 out of 10. Walkabout Minigolf. This is another one I've been playing for a very long time and just so happened to complete it this month. Now, I've owned this game from way back when I had my Quest 2, and I played a little, found it fun, but not really something that grips me. However, when I upgraded to my Quest 3, I also sold my 2 to my friend, and playing this game with someone is literally a game changer. It's quite possibly the best talk shit video game I've ever played. We just hop on, do a course or two, and talk about anything, and honestly, it's perfect. I know this sounds like a date, and yes, it is a date. We're getting married in the winter, you're all invited. But in all seriousness, it's just so chill and makes for the perfect background for good conversation. Most times when we finish playing and we have 5 minutes before we need to log off, we choose a random map and search for the best spot to sit down and have a quick 5-minute chat before we kiss each other goodnight. It's just so peaceful. That said, just because it's in the background, it doesn't mean the game is boring or not good. The gameplay here is excellent. I'm no minigolf expert, but it feels extremely intuitive, and very rarely does the ball do something it shouldn't, and most of the time it does, it comes down to headset tracking rather than the game. Some courses are definitely better than others. Here's our tier list if you care about that. But on the whole, it's awesome fun and makes use of the fact that these courses can be as crazy as you like. There are a couple of features I'd like added, like my other hand. I get the minimal look with just your flown heads and putters, but in multiplayer I want to be able to high-five my friend or wave or any other dumb stuff you do in VR. Still, the game that's here is almost perfect, so I have no choice but to give it a 9.5 out of 10. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is another game that shot to the front of my list, and I even bought it at full price, which basically never happens. It's the latest game from the team that made Sayonara Wild Hearts, and would you believe it? It is another of the most unique games I've ever played. It's essentially a mystery puzzle game where you make your way through a hotel, slowly learning more information and collecting more items allow you to unlock more areas of the map and the story. In true mystery puzzle game fashion, it makes you ping pong from feeling like a galactic brain genius to a total moron every other second. Because guess what? It's bullshit.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
This game like pisses me off and then just does something like that and I'm like, damn. I do like this game, I just feel very dumb. And it's, it's not the nicest feeling. But it is still such a joy to play because of how satisfying the payoffs are. The underlying narrative is a little bit predictable in some of its twists, but it's still extremely interesting and of course, outstandingly presented. This team knows how to make things look incredible. Where Wild Hearts feels like a dream, this is more akin to some sort of bizarre nightmare. It's not exactly a horror game, but it's for sure fairly dark, both in terms of its color palette and a lot of its themes. And I had several moments where I jumped out of my skin purely from being so immersed in the atmosphere. Fuck me. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. I desperately want to make a video comparing these two games in future, so leave a like if you want to see that. Another thing that makes this game incredibly unique is its approach to puzzles. Taking some sort of notes is basically mandatory to play this game. You could, in theory, work everything out in your head, but you'd have to have some serious photographic memory to do that, and writing things down makes it a lot easier, at the slight downside of looking like a madman to anyone that sees your insane scrollings. Speaking of photographic memory, this game uses a system called Just That to store all documents and important information, and this is a great feature that makes the game flow so much better. Instead of having to run across the map to reread something, it's instead right there waiting for you from the first time that you read it. The mental note system is also genius. This is essentially a quest log that notes down everything you find that needs some level of solving. So a door that you need a key for, a statue with a round hole in its head. Basically, anything you need to come back to will be here, and many times whilst playing, I would feel stuck, have a read of this and realize I could now complete something that would spur me back into motion. They're two very simple systems, but work so well for this type of game. I understand that this game will definitely not be for everyone. Even though it frustrated me many times over the just over 12 hours I spent with it, I really love this game and I can't give it any lower than a 9 out of 10. And that was me. Between recording the start of this video and this outro, the channel has actually grown to almost 5 times what it was before the backlog video. So thank you again for that. It has genuinely blown me away and means the absolute world to me that so many people enjoyed my suffering. Let me know if you thought of this new format for the months in review. I thought I'd put in a bit more effort and make them into like their own mini reviews per game rather than just talking about them with basic gameplay footage over it, which felt pretty lazy and honestly very boring to make. So hope you enjoyed it because I had a lot more fun making this one. The essay video for this month is more or less finished being written. I'm kind of just struggling to nail down the last couple of points, but I'm really excited to share it with you and keep an eye out for that in a couple of weeks. Yeah, that's everything from me. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for watching this video. Like it if you did. Love yourself no matter what, and I will see you in the next one.